losing my mouse.
Yep. Okay. This is the Winston County Board of Commissioners meeting. It's August 20th. It's 10:04 a.m. Roll call, please.
Jim Marlowe.
Present.
Bert Gentry. Jim Atkinson.
Okay, today under new business, first off, is there any old business? If not, we'll move on to new business. Okay. Selection of the ARPA administrative team. Okay, there were three categories. One was the administrative assistant, one is the point of contact, and what was the third one? Do you remember?
Authorized representative.
Authorized.
Representative. That would be the one that would submit the report.
Okay. All right. We talked about actually being a point of contact and an authorized representative. Personally, my own feelings, I think that's fine, but I think that the entire board ought to fill all three categories on here as well.
I was going to suggest all four of us be all three categories, because in that way, I'm already the account administrator right now.
Right now you are,
Yeah.
yeah.
But what I'm saying
But
is,
this is what the board's going to decide.
I understand, but what that is, I mean, making changes and updates, for the roles as needed, and identifying if the individual served in his or her event staff changes. But because of COVID, because of, the fact, I'll be honest, the three of you, this isn't your full-time job, you're not here all the time. Some of this stuff will be of time-sensitive nature that you need to have somebody available to be able to fill those roles at any point in time. So that's why I'm saying, I think all three of you, as well as myself, should be listed as all three of these spots.
That's what I was gonna ask you is, we can't let anything fall through the cracks, so what does each thing do? I mean, what do they do? The administrator, what do they do? Then go on down and look what they do.
The accountability, it's in here on page 2 of the portal for recipient reporting. But basically says for the account administrator for, the award, as the administrative role of maintaining the names and contact information of those individuals for the. We get a copy of that. I don't have.
I'll make a copy of it.
Oh, is it that? Is it,
Yeah.
is this one right here? It's this, yeah. It's not.
No, it's not.
Well, it's the one that's labeled Treasurer's Portal for Recipient Report, State and Local Fiscal Recovery Funds.
Scattered all over the place. Read one.
I don't think this
I read
is-
one section, head hurts, and another group said head hurt.
You may have. You may have the other. Nope. There's two, like, is that one say compliance? Compliance and reporting guides. Okay, yeah, there's two of these. There's one that's compliance reporting and the other one is reporting. Yeah. So, okay, so again, designated, maintain names and contact information, designated individuals reporting, responsible working within the organization to determine the status and needs for the roles, point of contact, authorized rep for reporting, provide the names and contact information through the treasurer's portal. County administrator is responsible for making changes and updates to the roles as needed over the report period. Recommend, identify individuals to serve in his or her capacity within the staff changes. So, it's not like you have authoritative, control over anything. It's basically being able to maintain the portal itself, which again, I'm already doing.
Right.
And there's nothing in here that puts any additional power or anything other than being able to update that information. And that's all.
Making changes, I would suggest this, that the changes be brought before, any changes be brought before the board.
Oh, I agree. I mean,
Vote.
you know, again, as I've already
Yeah.
emailed you guys,
Yeah.
the statement of robust reporting means you literally need to document everything you do that pertains to.
Right, every single
Which,
thing.
every single thing. So yes, if there's any change, a removal or an addition of anyone, like into this, you would need to make the motion and everything else, and then approve it and go through with that.
Same thing with every dollar spent.
Yes,
With everything.
every dollar spent, every meeting made, every, you know, whatever you do. I mean, yes, that stuff, you know, would need to be documented, identified.
Now, I know in Franklin County, at some point, somewhere, you're gonna need a legal mind. Okay? Because Brett Barkey is working with Franklin County, they're way out front of us, they're way front of us. Okay? He knows this stuff inside and out. Some either, I think he needs to be part of this, or somebody like a rep, somebody that knows this stuff. You said something about, I mentioned that bellwether.
Yeah.
And you sure on that, but I know some counties using them that are more than 5 minutes.
Well, I mean, Adams County, I guess, is using it, but I don't know hardly anybody else. I mean, they told us at that meeting that.
They charge 10,000 a year, so that's over. So
20 grand for the contract.
For the whole contract.
Yes.
Right. And they do the whole show.
Yeah.
So it's another option, I mean, you know, because what,
I don't think that option's on the table. I mean, I can reach out to them and talk to Bruce, but I mean,
The only
he made a
issue,
comment to everybody.
It was
that
my
it's
understanding
5,000,
he had more.
but they had more than
They
enough.
had more than they could
They
do.
were only going to allow and accept people that were, you know, below 5 million.
and there, we have had an issue with them on the last Cures report. There was some,
There was a discrepancy in
Yeah.
how they had taken, they didn't report the proper pension amounts. And for between the correctional officers and the actual law enforcement officers, because the SLEP and the IMRF are different. So they were, yes, the original report and after the audit, that wasn't correct. They're correcting it. But yeah, there
But
was
they're correct now.
Not yet,
Not
not
yet. They're
yet.
still in the process of
there's,
getting
right,
it, but they don't go forward it to the owner or something like that.
well, I'll go back to the legal, I think a legal mind is being involved in this. And then you talked about the time of the pay or something. Are you talking about the person puts in the time, they wouldn't make additional, if you would relieve the general fund from a salary of it.
Well, possibly. We have to get some kind of clarification on that.
I
It
know.
states in here, you know, and I, like, I don't know how long you're wanting this meeting to go on, you know.
Well, we're gonna have details though.
We need to, I mean, my recommendation is we need to meet weekly on this from here on out. I mean, because we don't need to be having 2 to 3 hour meetings that are going round and round because we haven't met in 2 or 3 weeks. So, I mean, that's one recommendation. The other thing is, there are classifications in here that talk about consulting. There are things that said that certain employees and wages can be paid. But I've started to look through the GFOA website and like the message board to try to see if there's been any information that's been talked about or asked about that. So I haven't seen anything as of yet, but I'm still trying to learn.
So
to navigate through
what
that.
Red said was there's no additional funds, elected official, they get paid out of the.
You can't get premium pay, no. I mean,
Yeah,
you
but
can
to
get
free
paid,
up the-
but
free up the general fund.
Possibly, yeah, it could be, and that's why I think I made a recommendation or mentioned before that all of you, including Drew, I mean, needs to be keeping track of the time that you're spending on this particular subject. Because we may be able to put that in, you know, for reimbursement of wages. I don't think that you can, and I don't think that includes though, I mean, the county's still gonna be on the hook for any pension portion or their contribution for FICA, Social Security,
and that's another question.
unemployment, and everything else. I don't think that that's an eligible expense.
Right.
So, I mean, anything that would be, I think, premium pay or, and again, I haven't got final determination or clarification on that, but it appears, I mean, I know there's it's prohibited, that you can't put any money for pensions. I think maybe it says back or it says shore them up, but I would assume that also means going forward as well. So I mean, anything you would do for any kind of pay for pensions or for, because they're wages, or for anything you would pay that would be considered a wage, I think the county's still going to be on the hook for the pension portion as well as the employer's contribution for all taxes. So, I mean, you might get some relief to be able to take out the line item of the exact salary, you know, for the payroll line item for whomever, but you're still going to be on the hook to pay, I mean, for those employer contributions through the FICA trust and Social Security. Have to be on a daily basis.
So,
To circle, sorry.
go ahead.
I guess to circle back to the comments made by Commissioner Gentry, I would, everybody can read the description of the three positions on here. This recommendation is not an attempt at a power grab by any means. However, after consulting with Mr. Zanatti, I think it would probably be in the county's best interest to list either the state's attorney or one of the ASAs, myself, as a backup on either one of, or if you're going to do all three of these positions. Brent's right. You know, wherever you want to get your legal advice is fine. There is some statutory language that says the state's attorney's office is counsel for the board, which is why I'm sitting in this chair right now. But that's your choice. You can go to an outside attorney or an outside agency if you want to. We can go down that road later. But I would recommend that you seriously consider adding an attorney or the state's attorney as at least a backup for one of these positions.
I think, obviously, you're paid by the taxpayer, you would be the choice. I mean, it's just spending money outside, of course. So, I mean, that would be, but we've done things without legal advice or legal counsel and stuff, and it didn't go too well. So we need to have a legal person involved. It's my take, I'm only one person, I can be out with it, but that's what I think. So,
Andrew, if we start having weekly meetings, you'll be able to go to those weekly meetings.
Obviously, depending on the time that the meeting's set, but yeah, I'll make every effort to be here. We have a new attorney in our office who has been listed as the backup for the civil and for the county board, Thomas Slayton. I don't know if he's been over here, had the opportunity to meet you all, but if there is an occasion, if we're having a weekly meeting and something happens and I can't make this meeting, I have to be in court, either myself, Tom, or Brandon will make sure that we're in attendance at the meeting.
we usually find out what's a good day people will make, so that way everybody's got this,
Absolutely.
I mean,
So,
the one that would make sense would be the point of contact, because I mean, they'd be receiving any correspondence from the treasurer. That includes the alerts and any kind of reporting requirements and deadlines, so that they could look at it, interpret it, and offer their opinion.
okay. So a point of contact, would they be the only person then
No.
that receives this? I know.
No, I'm saying, here's what I'm going back to, my recommendation was the treasurer and the three commissioners be listed as all three of these. So that way, I don't have to disseminate information to the three of you or to Drew, I mean, on anything that's received. And then, that way, if something slips through the cracks or goes to my junk email or something like that, you got four other, individuals that may have received the information as well. I mean, the authorized representative, I don't know why the state's attorney would need to be for reporting, if they would be the ones submitting the reports. That's just my personal opinion. Same way with the account administrator, I'm not sure that their office filing that unless for some reason there's a bonding issue or something that is liability that it feels there's a layer of protection there by having the state's attorney's office listed as an additional, like, administrator.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the benefit would be listing it under point of contact. That would have, myself or at least somebody in the state's attorney's office receiving the correspondence from the treasury. And it's, at least on this end, it's another set of eyes, it's another email address that's gonna get something.
We can start this way at any time we can amend any of these roles. That's the way I understand it.
Yes,
We
that's
can
correct.
start this way and then see how it works. If it's not working, then we will adjust.
Yeah.
I think this is gonna be fluid all the way through. There's
It
no
will
way
be.
this is
It will
gonna
be.
change.
It will be. But I mean, the more I think through this, as you mentioned, this is for nobody knows what's going on here at all. I mean, let's be clear. So.
And it's
Even
changing.
what you
And it's
said
changing daily, so having their eyes on it as well as all of ours, to me, at least, if we may get an email from the treasury and we look at it and be like, this doesn't seem to be that big of a deal, no problem. From their side, they may be like, no, actually, this could really escalate to a major issue. So whereas we're looking at it and no big deal, all of a sudden, timeline goes along, and then now we're at the 11th hour and we're scrambling, which has happened with other issues. And then we're trying to figure out how do we fix it at the last minute. Whereas if they, had received the correspondence as well, they could say, it's not an issue now, but it is something that should be addressed by the group, or we offer this opinion. I don't think it hurts to have a set of eyes to look at. And yeah, from what I can tell, I mean, the way it's set up, I went in and looked at it. I mean, my gosh, after we put in the Duns and the Sams number to match natural Williamson County, you can scroll down 500 people. That you can pick their names and
Okay, all right.
put them on as, the admin, reporter, contact. and everything.
Now, if we do this weekly meeting is what, to determine the reporting, or is it to determine what?
Well, I mean, to update things and to see how
Update.
things are going.
Okay.
Get, and
Stay on
to
top
keep-
of it, basically.
Again, that we're not having a 3-hour meeting or a 2-hour meeting or spending, no offense, but I mean, this board, I'm included in some of these, conversations that a 10-minute topic takes 45 minutes for a whole day because it's all lumped into a bunch of different things. So we can, try to meet and be more focused, get in, get out. and-
Well, and this is another thing that when
Are
we
you
set
there?
them up, we can always adjust as we go
Can you hear
forward.
me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
If we find out we need
Hold on a
weekly
second.
meetings at different times, we can.
Right.
Okay, let me ask this then. And Kim, what we're talking about is maybe setting up a weekly meeting to stay on top of this.
And we don't have to meet with them. I mean, the thing is, if there's nothing to be discussed,
We don't have to
we
do
don't
it.
meet.
We
You
can,
know, honestly though, I think it's a good idea to go ahead and just set aside.
I agree.
And what
I
was
I mean,
gonna
especially
ask,
like right now,
While
I'm
we're
literally getting taxes. I've got to take care of that side
While
too. So I need
while
to
we're
know
here,
day and time
Today.
we're going to possibly be,
let's make these
So I can
administrative
work
decisions
with
today.
my group.
what day of the week do you think is good? I know our regular board meetings are on Tuesday. I know we used to do board review on Tuesdays, Thursdays, but Wednesday is always good for me. I mean, personally, a Wednesday. Well, I don't know, it's just.
It's all about Jim. It's all about Jim.
I'm flexible. I mean, I don't care. I just.
Wednesday works for me. Wednesday's a good day for me. Sorry, Jim. Threw you under the bus.
I don't.
Is it Wednesday okay? Wednesday, how's the Wendy's look for you?
Wednesday afternoons are best.
Oh, we can do that.
Wednesday afternoon, Friday afternoon. Thursdays are not good. I can make any other time basically work, but Thursdays aren't good.
Thursdays are not good for me either.
I agree. Well, my 2 due dates are on a Thursday, so
Does Wednesday work for you?
I mean, I can make it work.
I would,
Like I said, next Wednesday will be like probably nearly impossible, but I'll make it work because Thursdays do that.
May not have to meet.
But we may not.
We may not.
exactly. As long as we have in mind, okay, this is a Wednesday, let's check, do we need to meet? Okay, well, and afternoons, honestly, I think would be best because that way in the morning, if you had something, you can get your work done in the morning. You had to do something quick. And then that afternoon, we could meet for this.
And these shouldn't take that long.
that's the goal. I mean, you know,
It's just
we
nuts.
need-
What we want.
we need to have like, you know, topics of discussion, not this open-ended, you know, it needs to, you know, have something. I know it's strategic planning, but I think that, you know, as chair or as commissioners or whatever, I mean, there needs to be, someone needs to be like a point person, and we need to say, okay, these areas, I got this to talk about. So we know what it is, and it's not like it's a free for all. So if, I mean, I'm just saying, just from like what you guys have submitted, because you submitted water stuff.
Right.
If you've had 3 water districts that have sent you letters of inquiry,
Mhm.
then you can say, okay, I've got 3 of these that we need to say, okay, I've got this, this, and this on it. So we can talk about that. May just be just telling everybody this is who's submitted. But at least we know. And it's not like we're going down everything.
Well,
Say
until we're
everything
actually
on,
making
you know,
decisions, we can.
on
go out
infrastructure,
by
of
email.
water, of sewer, of broadband, of, you know, public health, you know, health, premium pay, all this other stuff. I mean, don't go down the list of 6 or 7 items every single time. I mean, drill it down, let's try to be focused, let's get in, let's get out, and then, you know, move on to the next, you know, meeting. And if it happens to pop up on Wednesday, we don't have enough information, keep it till next week.
Quite honestly,
So-
quite honestly, the last meeting went way too long. One topic said 10 times,
Right.
people talking over each other, you know, that's gotta stop. You gotta make it, get in here and get out and get the point.
And hopefully, as we get through this first interim and probably the October, like or maybe the first couple quarterlies, and get that as we start, you know, building things up and everything else, that, you know, then maybe we can put it off and, you know, meet every 2 weeks or 3 weeks or once a month or something like that. But I mean, again, we got this to deal with. We got, you know, letters and inquiries that we've had come out. We still got to figure out an application process and what's going to be on that application.
Right.
And everything else. I mean, again, some of these inquiries, what we're finding out is you know, there's requests, but then we find out, you know, can you get a loan and then use our funds to pay it back? You know, who pays the interest, premium pay, or you know, who's responsible to pay, you know, this, that, and the other. You know, there's a lot of things that until we get them and see them, we don't have an answer.
And on that note, on meeting on Wednesdays, I told Stephanie, let's go ahead under budgeting, strategic planning, put it on that ARPA reporting, so we don't have to have this question, what are we gonna put on the agenda? It can all fall under this at every meeting. So that would simplify things. If there's something specific, like a selection, now that I don't know, like an award. If we decide an award, we, or to the state's attorney's office, or you know, normally everything like that has to be listed on the agenda, but we could list it under the ARPA reporting at least, you know, since we have it on our.
Sure. I think the ARPA reporting is probably fine. It's probably even fine for discussion of topics. If you're going to make a specific award, I think you need to have a specific line item under new business for that specific award, just so that when it comes time for us to report, we can say, look, here was this separate issue, this separate motion, you know, has its own elements.
Okay, so we talked about Wednesdays. Wednesdays, anytime.
I mean, he said afternoon, so.
Yeah.
I mean, whatever. Talk about 2
One,
o'clock, you know,
1:15.
2 o'clock, whatever.
Let's make it 1:15.
Preferably before 4, you know.
I would suggest 1:15. Back to lunch sometimes.
1:15.
That's fine.
Lions Club may just run over. Okay, 1:15. Link on the webpage. Okay, Kim, do you have anything you'd like to suggest on that? Any comment?
On your meeting?
Yeah.
Well, I think it is most crucial that at least a week before you have a report due, that you would at least get together and put together the information that's going to be on the upcoming report.
I think I have.
So that's the emphasis that I would encourage you to have. In this initial stage, for the first several months, or perhaps the first year, you're going to be doing a lot of information gathering.
Right.
the sensitivity to me is hitting the report deadline. If you don't file the report on time, that could subject you to repayment. You know, you're not traditionally in the federal awards world because you traditionally do not receive and expend more than $750,000 a year. And so you're not used to this world. You're not used to the strict requirements. You're not used to the federal government requirements that you agreed to. Cures or the pandemic related funding has put you in a world that you're unfamiliar with. And there are things along the way that if you don't hit all of these benchmarks on time, they could disqualify you.
Where we at on sending a press release out? We can get that out too.
Well, you need to figure out who's gonna draft it. You probably need someone to look at it, which I would.
Right.
So Drew needs to look at it. I mean, there's a lot of stuff like, there's certain things that are public, there's certain things that are private, there's certain things that are public and private. So you need to make sure that whatever areas you're listing, I mean, or you make it known that of who may be eligible.
For an efficiency purpose, I would not recommend sending our press release until we have an application created.
I think that'd be a very good suggestion. The first report being due the 31st. Okay, in that report, we talked last meeting about everybody coming up with a paragraph of what they've done. I know I have. I don't know about the others.
I
forwarded mine to.
received Tim's through Stephanie, and then Brent has given me his as well. I
Okay,
don't have
I will
yours.
forward you mine when this meeting's over.
The only
We'll all
thing,
be, we'll all be on that, on those things. We all need to be informed of what everybody else is doing.
yeah, I can copy this and make a file for each one of you and let you see what each
Okay.
one has done.
I think the individual information sent to Ashley is fine. He can then send out an email to the
Disseminate
three of you. Yeah, that way
Right.
we're safe
That's
under
what
OMA.
I was going to question. Yeah.
So if you'll send me yours or
Okay.
send whoever, then I could scan those in and then send out to each one of what I received. Do you want me to copy you on that as well?
Yeah, that'd be great.
So, Kim, at one point was brought up about the IMRF contribution on premium pay.
Okay.
Your thoughts on that?
The pension contributions would not be an eligible cost under the ARPA guidelines. It clearly says that no pension contributions, no deposits into pension trust funds are going to be allowed.
So that would
if
have,
you were to do that, you would be responsible for the IMRF portion as well as Social Security Medicare tax, the payroll taxes. That would be on you.
so that would come out of the general fund.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, or the trust that are associated with those
Right.
specific.
pension fund.
Yeah. So,
Okay.
we have an Excel spreadsheet. I mean, if it gets to that point where someone submits a request with a dollar figure of what we have an Excel spreadsheet that I can plug in whatever that amount would be to then show what the county's contribution portions would be for each individual one and a total amount. Based off of like the dollar amount, like per the request. For, I mean, obviously, county-based employees. Because we have to do that anyway, whenever we are having all these other, when my office, the circuit clerk, the county clerk's office, all have to pay, through their automation funds for specific employees. Those are generated like through the payroll system that show and gives a breakdown of what each cost is. Because whenever we submit that, we all break it down and put it in the respective, trusts and gen fund item and everything else for to go in the private funds for the full funding and reimbursement of those employees.
All right, then. So, anybody else have anything they want to say about the administration team?
We have to vote on it.
Yeah. So basically, we want pretty much everybody on all of the aspects with the idea that reports will all have to be approved by the board, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so that would be the board, including state's attorney's office, am I correct on this? Okay, and actually got treasurer. So,
So I have a question about Ashley. So should we have somebody else in Ashley's office? For whatever reason, we're not available?
I think Rachel. I mean, Rachel's helping me with some of this stuff. I've had her start to do some research and things to help me with this.
I mean, do we have to be
I mean,
specific, or do we
you
have
could-
to?
well, I mean, you
or
could-
say department. Like the state's attorney, it may not be Brandon, it may be Drew.
Okay, can I make a comment that might help you get to this answer a little faster?
Sure.
Okay, in the instructions for the portal, they refer to individuals. So I think you
Okay.
would need to specify individuals, you have to identify them with name, email address, and they have to go through the identification process.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
So,
That's true.
I mean,
Like,
is it something we should do? Just one more person in your office, just in case.
I mean, that's fine. I mean, she won't care. I mean, you know, again, she has check writing. I mean, she's an authorized sign on, you know, this on the council. I'm not available, so.
And once again, we can change it.
You can change it anytime. Yeah, you can, you know, pick, choose whomever.
Right.
Kim is right. I mean, and I have not sent that to Drew because I wouldn't worry about it. I mean, I have sent the three of you, the ID and me, you know, portal. Just keep it, I mean, so I can send that to Rachel, I can send that to Drew, I can send that to Brandon, whomever you have to designate. It is a pretty lengthy process, so it's not something to put off. I mean, you're gonna need to start as soon as you make this. I recommend the three of you, whomever, go on it today. Because it is a drawn out, Celeste helped me do mine, but it took close to a week for us to get everything sent in, reviewed, responded, checked in, and everything else. So, I mean, that's the other reason why I'm just saying August 31st, you know, we've got now, was it 8 working days, 7 working days? It may not even be done, so.
But at least it's on the report.
It's on, yeah, I'm there.
Okay.
I'm labeled as these three. When you pull my name up in the treasury portal,
Okay.
along with the barcode reporting stuff, when I click my name, if I wanted to go in and change something, it populates me as those three designations.
So we are covered.
So we are
August
covered
31st
if-
report.
If all of you get denied,
Right.
we're covered, yeah, for this interim report for sure. So that's, because I had to do that to be able to even get the money in the first round, the first tranche.
Okay. But your suggestion, we start this.
I mean, yeah, it's not a
We'll work on
24-hour
that.
process.
As soon as this meeting's
Yeah.
over, I'll.
Yeah, so as soon as you identify the people, I will forward that web address to those respective individuals and let them get started, you know, on it as well.
So for the account administrator, we want everyone. And so everyone, by everyone, being the board, Brandon or Drew then?
Drew, you and the other gentleman, you said?
Yeah, we'll be the two people that'll be involved the most. It'll be me primarily, will be here as an assistant, but it's a board decision. I'd almost maybe recommend Brandon. I have no plans on leaving, but Brandon, we know will be here for at least 4 years, well, 3.5 at this point. So maybe listing him might be best, but it's your call. I'm happy to do it and go through the process. I don't have any axe murders on my record that I know of, so you know, hopefully everything will come back.
I would-
It is fluid, so I mean, I think, yeah, Brandon and Drew to start out with us.
Let's do them too.
That if you see that he's unavailable or whatever, again,
Just want to make sure.
on
since
that
Drew-
Wednesday meeting, you just
You're
plug it
going
in
to be
as
in the
a,
meetings. I want you to have.
as a motion and Mr. Slade.
Okay, including Rachel.
Rachel.
Okay, and so that would be, other than, okay, so will she be included on the rest of these others?
Well,
Or we want to just keep
I
it
mean,
to the
honestly-
board, state's attorney's office, and you?
If the purpose of putting a second from the treasury's office on there is in case he's unavailable, then I'd recommend doing it for all three
As
counties.
a backup,
yeah, I mean, that's what I'm thinking, because I mean,
we're talking, trying to get a fail safe here.
yes, yeah, because I mean, in all honesty, I mean, right now with COVID, I mean, beginning of the month, if you were vaccinated and you were in contact with someone, you didn't have to quarantine. Now, it's changed. Even if you're vaccinated, you're around somebody who has to be quarantined. So
This could be
there's a
changed.
chance that we could all be sitting here in the meeting together, four of us, and we all got a quarantine, and then now all of a sudden it's like, then we're down to the backup, material to be able to do it.
Jim, may I offer another suggestion for you to think about here?
Sure.
Okay, so you're looking for fail-safe, safeguards, and I want the board to understand that the responsibility, because what we're talking about here is really filing the report, opening up a pathway to file the report and the documentation needed. That the board has the responsibility to make sure that the reports are correct and timely filed. And I don't want the board to start leaning on crutches for people who may not be as informed on what's going on with reports and whatnot. I think it would be a good idea if you would also list Stephanie as a person, because when it comes to where is the data, where is the Word document, the Excel document, you often look to Stephanie, and if for some reason you're unavailable, she would be the source, probably the primary source of where's this process at, what have they written down, what have they documented. You use her to filter the information to each other to avoid the Open Meetings Act issues. So if you're looking for a fail-safe, who do you go to primarily for fail-safe issues? And my history with you is it's Stephanie.
Hey, it's a big plate, let everybody have a piece of it.
I mean, she's got a very valid point.
Sure.
Well, you use
Sorry,
the
Stephanie.
data storage location when you don't want to be emailing each other directly.
How about you, do a piece of this?
No.
It's small, if you make the final call.
Well, for that matter too, why not Kim herself as well?
Kim's gonna be audited.
Well,
I guess
yeah.
I say no.
Cautious there.
I say
Okay.
no on that.
Because,
You're gonna get really close with that.
would step into or possibly be viewed as.
Everybody covered under the umbrella of the county
Not
also.
related auditor role.
Okay, no problem. No problem. Just a thought. So, well then, Stephanie, you good with that too? Good. Okay, well then, let's just list all these individuals in, be everyone on the board. Drew, Brent, and Brandon. Ashley, Rachel, and Stephanie.
That's all three of them.
That would be for all three of
Yeah,
them.
then the three of us. Make a motion.
Yeah, that'd be my motion to approve the names that I just mentioned. Yes, I include Rachel,
You need their
Ashley,
full names. I
okay.
feel like. I
Yeah,
feel like
if you have them,
I-
it's-
Rachel
it's-
Cedar King, Ashley Gott,
Sorry.
Stephanie Linden, Drew Purcell, Brandon Snoddy, Brent Gentry, Jim Marlowe, Tim, whatever his name is.
Yeah.
Atkinson.
Anybody else outside?
Yeah.
Raise your hand.
So,
Gonna run out of ink. That's the
I'm
last
saying,
name.
am I listed on there?
that's a motion to be
Oh, I'm already on
put on as the administrator, account administrator, point of contact for reporting, an authorized representative for reporting. And that's my motion.
Jim Marlowe,
Yeah,
Brent Gentry, Jim Matheson,
the, any changes, I believe, that need to be made or anything need to be approved first before changes are made. I think that's important. So other than that, we need to come up with the, how we're going to put this on the website for people to apply. I've asked Travis to come up with also, well, actually it's totally separate. I asked Travis to come up with maybe like a scorecard whenever we get to the point of trying to decide what we're going, who we're going to award what. That's the way they do it with Great Region on any grant application or event that usually has a scorecard. Once again, that scorecard I think needs to be approved, brought before the board and approved. We can discuss it, make any modifications to it if we want.
Travis.
Emory. He's worked with grants and stuff before quite a bit through Simpo and through Greater Egypt. He's familiar with scorecards. Now we can fill in the blanks and we can put a point evaluation to everything on the scorecard. But I think that would be a great way to, once we get down to trying to figure out who we award what. And
Does the application, press release on us that we're talking about we're doing or going to be doing, have to be done by the 31st?
No.
I think.
And I don't know, I gotta reiterate Bruce said that, I don't even think it's something on the website unless you have to. I mean, until we get this out, because you're gonna put something out, you're gonna have information, you're gonna get flooded with calls of, okay, how do I do this? What do I do? You're like, we're working on this.
Well, how about the people we already got? Because they've already said, man, they're gonna have to just do it, just an application and staple to it. We already got. I'm gonna get another one here in a minute.
What you have given me so far is nothing, basically.
I get that.
Because there's not a dollar amount, there's not a, you know, there's nothing here that, there's nothing that would provide, like, when I think of an application, I mean, you need to, you know, identify the, you know, the need, you know, look at the product, provide the justification of why is it necessary, who does it benefit, the sustainability of that, you know, project, does it take care of something for 1 year, for 3 years, for 20 years? I mean, all that stuff needs to be in this. Just putting in here that, you know, and no offense to anybody who's submitted anything, but just putting something in there saying that this would benefit, you know, X because of this, with no other quantitative data is not an application. I mean, when Travis fills out stuff, I mean, for road requests and everything else, it tells you, you know, car count, whatever, you know, however it will benefit an expansion of that area and what are the overall benefits, not only to, you know, the county, but to the individuals as well. I mean, that's what needs to be in an application. I mean, so like I said, what you give me is not even close to being able just to fill out a name and a request and to stable that too.
At purpose, I think they were at the done.
I mean, if some of those have already, like, I mean, if they've already got their drawings and their bids and they've got their, you know, whatever, impact studies and all that stuff, yeah, then that one is probably pretty close to being able to just write your name on it, staple, see attached, and here you go. But again, you know, if you don't have economic impact, you don't have individual people impact, all that stuff, I mean, that's nothing. And that shouldn't be our job to figure out who, you know, how many people does it impact. I mean, if people are gonna, you gotta put skin in the game and actually do the work to get the money. That's how it goes.
So there are people already doing applications in other counties, so where are they getting the application? Who's creating this guy? I mean, I know.
We can reach out to them. I mean,
I go back and read that. I'm sure they've already done it.
That's not a problem. I
I
mean,
mean,
some of them may
county's
not
gotten
be.
that, you're receiving applications. Who's receiving the applications?
No, I say, there's other counties that have their application, what does their application look like? How do we mirror it off of what? Is everybody on the
So
same
we don't
type
have
of
to rebuild the
application?
wheel.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, we can get those. I know there was a, I'm trying to think if it was. I'm saying Dirty County, I could be wrong. There was somebody that did the Cures program and they gave some of that money like to businesses and they had an application that they sent out to our treasurers for. That they have.
Okay.
So I mean, you can, I'll print that out and send it to you. You can, look at it and see
We get-
what it says. But I mean, there's a lot of things that you guys are gonna have to figure out. I'm not trying to get too deep in the weeds, but you're gonna have to figure out, I mean, Jeremy Nolan made a comment. Are we gonna disqualify or discount people or groups that have already received PPP loans or cures money or anything like that? Does that count against them or is that, how does that work? There's a lot of moving parts and a lot of different things that you're gonna have to take into consideration when you're looking at all this stuff.
From an application standpoint, one of the things in the instructions that you've read is obviously you have to do this community outreach. You have to identify what your greatest community need is. And something that I found interesting is you have to identify, if you're going to do project A, what the negative impact is to that project. Essentially, who are you leaving out or what, I guess, problems could come from it. Knowing that you're going to have to do that and kind of provide a pseudo justification in the reporting at the end of the day, I think it's important that you have everybody fill out an application. And when I mean everybody, I actually do mean everybody. If they've already submitted some stuff to you, they still need to fill out an application. Otherwise, you may run into an issue where down the road, somebody says, well, you denied my application. I went through this entire process, and somebody who just sent you a text message saying we need some money got the money. The other thing is, I imagine there will be departments within Williamson County that are going to ask you for some of this money. I would require, if my advice to you is to require those departments to fill out an application also. However thorough you want that application to be filled out, whether it's just a see attached and then attach the stuff, or you want them to go through and list it, that's your call. But that way, at the end of the day, everybody you give an award to or everybody you deny, they have a uniform application. So there's no argument to be made that, hey, they didn't go through the process the right way and they got money. We did go through the right way and we didn't get money. I would also include a recommendation, some of those questions, if you're interested in making those decisions. Put on the application, did you receive PPP money? Did you receive CARES Act, other CARES Act funding, whatever the case may be. I would also potentially, and this is a hard question to answer, put on the application, what's the negative economic impact to the community if we approve your project? Now, that does fall more on you for the reporting, but that would be an interesting question, at least I think, to see what some of these applicants would say. My comment earlier about efficiency is we need that application before we put a press release out. We need that application before we put it on the website, because actually, and Brenner 100% right, otherwise Stephanie, Amanda, everybody's just going to be getting flooded with calls, probably your office since you're treasurer, somebody, hey, I'm going to call treasurer, see if I can get some of this money. So we're kind of in a hurry up and then wait mode if you're going to have an application period, but we probably need, that application is probably the primary thing that you need to focus on.
And maybe as well, you may have touched on this, the parameters for the application.
Sure.
If it's for premium pay, it was only between, Kim, what were the dates? It was March something, March 3rd, or is it March 31st?
I think it was March 3rd of 2021.
Okay, until now or until when?
Well, this is the thing to keep in mind with the ARPA funding. If you read through the literature, ARPA funding is forward thinking, not in the past, forward thinking.
Okay.
So on that issue, you would be looking at it. And here's the other thing that I think you must keep in mind when it comes to essential pay. The ARPA funding, the requirements are different than CURE. Okay? So ARPA funding wants you to specifically identify the staff and what they're doing for mitigation of COVID-19. So there's going to be a specific documentation requirement for that. So forward thinking, not in the past. So Jim, to directly answer your question, the funds must be expended by 2026. They must be obligated by 2024.
Okay. So basically obligated actually from March 2021 to March 2024.
Yeah, but I mean, that goes with, you're saying, if you approve the award, you can go back and retroact it to March 3rd, 2021 for those
Right,
hours.
right. Well, that's
Nothing
what I
prior to
meant.
that. And then
Right.
if you set a dollar amount of, we'll just throw out $100,000 to be paid for premium pay, whatever that equates to on an hourly basis, all the way up until the $100,000 is expended, and then it's over. So if that happens to only cover from March 3rd until April 20th, there's your allotment, there's your hours, there's your 100 grand, you're done. So anything else from April 20th on, you just get your regular pay. I mean, that's how I read it. Kim may have a different interpretation or see it, but that's the way I was understanding it. Is like you can't go prior to March
You cannot go back.
2021, can't go back into the well to be able to give someone, in essence, a lump sum, right? So.
You can't write somebody $25,000 check.
I tell you. then-
Well,
then-
and again, you know, in the Q&A, I sent you guys yesterday, and I know it's a lot of material all at one time, and I think everybody needs to take their time to digest that material. In the Q&A, it talks about the difference between what is necessary to substantiate the use of CURES money versus the use of ARPA money. ARPA money, forward thinking, specific to mitigation,
Got it.
documentation of the employee's participation in mitigation. So everybody's going to have to really understand that and the documentation level that's required. And if you don't have it, the answer is going to be, it's going to be reported as a question cost. And then you're subject to repayment. I don't want you guys to be there. That's why I'm asking you to read through the literature, take a minute, understand this is different than CURES. So there's going to be real risk here if you end up doing this wrong because of, I don't know if you want to call it peer pressures or whatever's going on. The ultimate responsibility for doing this right or wrong rests on the 3 board members.
So I think it's important to make a distinction here from a legal standpoint. While there is a difference between CARES funding and ARPA funding, and while ARPA funding is supposed to be, forward thinking or forward funding, let's not confuse the fact that you can go back. Part of the purpose of ARPA funding is to ensure or to restore county government services to pre-COVID levels. So while there are restrictions on the amounts that you can give and the dates that you can give it, and while this money is to help propel Williamson County in the future, you can go back and provide some of that money. And I think this is specifically related to the court system and how the services for the county operate. But as part of that Q&A, if you look at section 2.19, some of that, I think the answer that was provided does address this concern specifically. So just wanted to point out that clarification. I didn't want anybody who was listening to this online in the future, here in person, to listen to that answer that was just given by the auditor and think, no, none of this money can be used for past services. It can be, there are restrictions, but you are not limited. If the 3 of you decide that you want to use some money to restore services provided to the county to pre-COVID levels from the past, you can do that.
Brent, you said Pike County has an application.
No, I said.
Franklin County or some other
There are other counties that have applications. They're
Okay.
already ahead of us. If we could get, maybe I could ask Rick if he's got that application.
If we
Or
can
how he
get
got that.
maybe a couple of those, and then maybe
Yeah.
I'll try to work.
Blend
on
them
something,
together.
And then we'll put them together, and then we'll meet on like one of the days that we schedule. We'll look at this, and we'll get this ironed out how we want it.
I mean, that helps better than start writing stuff out, at least see what I'm doing.
Sure.
Oh, yeah.
And you got a treasure, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I know there's one out there for sure. Like,
Yeah.
you know,
That's a start, anyway.
Does anybody else have anything that they want to say about ARPA?
I mean, okay, the only thing I was gonna ask is, when I sent out an email, I was asked a question. And I've looked at a couple of different message boards that, is it required for us to submit the lost revenue calculation on this first interim report? Or can we submit the 2020 lost revenue at a later date?
Kim, did you hear that?
I did. I'm going to have to research that a little further. Actually, I have not come across that specific requirement that it be submitted with this upcoming report. I was searching for that since you emailed me about that.
Well, I mean, it was in, I mean, one of these guidance areas. I think I referenced the page in that, but again, it didn't seem clear. And then I had in that GFOA message board, several treasurers and for both state and their local communities were saying that they felt it was unclear and they weren't sure if it needed to be submitted or not. One said that they felt that it didn't matter. I mean, you could just submit it at any time, but that part kind of reference that you would be turning it in the interim for 2020 and then the fourth quarter report for 21, 22, and I guess 23. So I didn't want that to be a requirement, and all of a sudden, you know, we submit that August 31st report without that, and then we submit the lost revenue request on the October report, and it gets, you know, denied. But I'd rather it be on October, because obviously that would give whomever enough time to be able to calculate it, do the worksheet, double check it, make sure, I mean, get input, whatever it may be, which I don't know, when Drew was talking about the pre-COVID levels, I was thinking that was more geared towards lost revenue replacement rather than staffing stuff, but or you could rehire staff that had been let go, which we didn't. But nevertheless, I wanted to try to get, you know, that, because I'd hate for us to lose out on, if we had lost revenue that we didn't get because we didn't put this report.
Sure. We'll cover all of our bases.
Yeah. That's all.
Okay. Kim, do you have anything else you'd like to add to this?
I don't, other than the continued suggestion to take your time, read through the material, understand the requirements, the restrictions that exist, and the risk of repayment. Always keep those things in mind, since this is an area of funding that you don't typically find yourself in. It can get pretty risky.
And I'd say, let's double check all the dates for the required reports so that we stay on top of it. You know, make sure that we meet before the date that's required to be reported so that it can be approved by the board, or for any discussion prior. So, other than that, that's all I have on this topic. I do have a couple small things I just want to run by everybody, but Kim, you're more than welcome to stay on the line unless you have any other comments.
Kim, if you would, stay on one for just a minute.
Okay.
Thanks, since this is the only time we're gonna be together.
Okay, let me run this by real quick.
Right, just go ahead and do that. I just didn't want her running off before. I got a
Okay,
chance.
this won't take long. Okay, I was contacted by Amia Thompson. She's working with Alzheimer's support groups here in Williamson County. She's wanting to know if she could put their information, say like a contact link on our website. And I didn't know.
Is that legit?
Well, I don't
I
know.
was not sure.
Well, that's why I didn't
And I
know.
wonder-
Because I wrote her back and I said, well, we talked about Big Friday, and she never said another word. So I don't know how legit that is.
And it's just one thing, we get a lot of requests like that, and we have
Well,
never let
that's
anybody
why
do it.
You
because
do
don't
one, you're
know
gonna
if
do
it's-
everybody.
I
yeah.
don't know how.
And I don't even know how we would do that.
It's almost like they know you. I would probably like,
Since we kind of work the system, I don't know how we would add those links to our website.
I would
and
answer
stuff,
the
and
fact that we've had
You'll get a lot
requests.
of,
You didn't get anything else?
Yeah, yeah.
I would answer the fact that we've had many requests passed and we just felt like it's
Let's
best.
encourage her to come to the meeting and make a presentation.
Just, but there is one thing before you leave. So, okay, so we'll, as of right now, the general
Wait,
consensus is, we'll leave it go. Maybe unless we can contact her or whatever.
She didn't respond back,
The
so I'm
only,
not sure.
the only other thing I have here, I'm sure Tom Couch, when he was here the other day, I asked him to come the other day and he gave us a little talk about the insurance requirements for contractors slash vendors. And he sent me a sample. This was a sample of the required liability, general liability and workers' compensation limits or umbrella limits. And I didn't know if you guys wanted to look at it. It's what I could send it for.
I looked at that, and that
I
is,
already did that, I believe.
that is the basic, just the basic insurance requirements for most businesses, especially like the type that we would have.
I'd asked Tom to come up with a letter that I could send to the department heads and so he did that. And so this is basically, it's just a sample letter bringing it to their attention that the county needs to have these procedures in place. We need to have copies of contractors' insurance. So if you want, I mean, what the goal was to send this letter, bringing it to the attention of all the office holders. Once again, schedule a meeting, let them come here, let Tom address them, the need of it, and then we make a policy that that office holders need to have this in place when they contract with the vendor. We're not saying they can't contract with the vendor, but if they contract with the vendor who does not have this, if something happens, technically it's on them. I guess it would be made known that, you know, we had a policy in place and they didn't follow it. So I know Brent has always said that what good are policies to have in place when we don't have enforcement, but yet I think we still need to go through the motion to have these policies in place. So I didn't know, I just brought this up. I could forward you, if I haven't already, this letter that Tom sent with the requirements. He's already sent it to Drew. Drew's looked at this. Drew's given it the nod of approval. So I think at the next board meeting, I'd like to have this on the agenda to approve this, and then
Sure.
then we can go ahead and have this meeting, send out a notice. We'll pick out a date, let Tom address everybody. Tom and Dan Luttrell from ICRT.
Next agenda as in the next time for this, or next agenda as in the big meeting?
In a big meeting. Yeah. We want to keep DARPA stuff like,
Yeah, let's try to
Yeah,
keep
keep
it
that
hard,
separate. Let's try not to if we can.
Well, of course, if there is something, you have the right to talk about it. This is an open meeting. The only time we can
It'll
talk.
be an open meeting. We can talk about it, but
Yeah, let's try.
Let's try our
Let's narrow
best.
the focus to ARPA and ARPA.
correct. Right. Okay. That's all I had.
Okay, I'm gonna just talk a few minutes about Walker's Bluff, so if you want to leave, by all means.
You can fill me in later.
You're like, I'm glad to leave.
There's no money coming in for that yet, so like.
No. Okay, it's been a busy week on the Walker's Bluff front. I think you guys may know that they had wanted to go to the mall for a temporary facility. They determined that that does not meet the statute or the HCA. They since have contacted me and said that they were going to go back to the temporary, which is in the HCA. They have every right to build a temporary facility without changing the HCA in any way. they contacted me this week. They want to build the permanent facility, which is what they were going to petition the IGB, the Illinois Gaming Board, back in April to do. Back in April, they never contacted us for a change in the HCA, which is what that would require. They since have learned that to build the permanent facility, they have to have a change in the HCA. So they are drafting an amendment. I've been checking my phone, waiting on them to send us the amendment for our attorneys to look over. That amendment is going to take out section 3.7. It's going to modify section 3.7 so they can't come back onto us in the future and ask us to pay for infrastructure costs. I sent you the plans yesterday. I forwarded those plans to you, at least a few sheets. That was the information I got from them. That is just basically shows what the elevation of the building is going to look like and a floor plan. I'm not sure what this HCA is going to say, or this amendment to the HCA is going to say, but as soon as I have it, I will send it to everybody so that you guys know what's going on. I told Tony Baxter that once the amendment to the HCA is sent to us and it's looked over by attorneys and there's no changes, that we will have a board meeting and we will expect somebody from Walker's Bluff to be here to answer any and all of our questions, plus present to us exactly what they want us to approve on this amendment, and let us, or explain to us what they want us to approve as far as the building. We'll have to give them they're asking for a letter from us saying that we have approved, which the resolution should do, the amendment to the HCA. So it's been a busy week. You guys are now up to date. Do you have any questions for me?
Didn't we want to amend the HCA originally?
We did. And they wanted us to do that so that they could move the casino to the mall. So when we talked to the attorney had some questions that he needed to discuss with the Illinois Gaming Board. So he called them in preparation of making the requested changes to the HCA from Walker's Bluff. That's when it was determined that Walker's Bluff could not move to the mall. It was in an incorporated area. They had asked to move to a area in Williamson County, but they did. I don't know if they understood that they could move to an incorporated area or what, but they were told they couldn't.
It just seems like from my standpoint that we wanted to modify the HDA for so long and we couldn't do it. We were running into roadblocks at every turn. And now all of a sudden they want to change it. And it sounds like this board, assuming your attorney says it's okay, is just going to jump right on it. Absolutely, yeah, where do we sign? Again, it doesn't matter. That's a personal opinion. I guess I should shut my mouth because I'm not your attorney on that matter. You guys decided to not go to the state's attorney's office.
You're going on the right path.
So,
Well, now this board has not agreed to anything. That's why they're coming here to explain it.
I think, first of all, talk to Tony and stuff. I think one hand doesn't know what the other hand's doing with that. They have been all over the board.
You are exactly right.
And it's disturbing and it's scary. But you just said 4 words, don't you, Alderman? Bargain in good faith never happened. So they can sit and they can HCA all they want, but the buck stops right here, and we'll decide whether we agree or not. They're not going to tell us what they want.
Exactly. They're going to have to come here and they're going to have to answer their questions
Bargain in good
right
faith.
here. So this is.
That was part of the reason why we agreed to sign that document. My whole thing, remember, in September, we had Tony on the Zoom. I said, Tony, correct me if I'm wrong. Not one shovel full of dirt is turned until we agree to the budget.
So we
And
communicate.
then,
Right.
so I'm expecting the budget to be presented to us in depth so we can discuss, talk back and forth like what you said. And that was my interpretation, their interpretation. what I
Their
understand-
interpretation, when I asked them, at what point does negotiating in good faith start? They said it started when you started to develop the HCA and it ended once it was signed.
Right, and so.
That was the
that was
negotiation in
not-
good faith.
Oh, okay, so, I'll be devil advocate, fine. So, but based on that right there, then they can't touch the HCA, right?
I would assume so, yes.
Because it says it, he said it's over, right? They don't, one hand does not know. the other.
I agree.
It's very frustrating.
It's incredibly frustrating.
So,
And gentlemen, I have done everything that I can do to get this.
I would tell them that, here's what I would do. You start messing the HCA, which they said it was over, okay? They're in front of us, or there's no more talk. Okay,
They're coming as soon as, like I said, as soon as I have what they want us to change the HCA. I'm gonna send it to you guys. I'll send it to everybody. Everybody can see it. So it's gonna be wide open, full transparency.
no more dragging the feet, let's get.
They're gonna have to
You're
come
right
here and sit in that chair and explain to us exactly what they're gonna do.
Is your attorney gonna come down from Chicago for that?
he probably zoom in.
Well, I'd say we're zooming in on that.
I mean,
Any
you-
update on the license from the gaming?
The next meeting, from what I understand, is September 9th. They want all this process done before September 9th.
I don't see that happening.
And once again, we've never once asked them to stop in the process of trying to attain this license. There seems to be a lot of disconnect on their side about.
So Tony said it went up 11 million project, 71. Goes to PLA, insurance and that, deals with different like, development, insurance. Not sure which one I would, but you do which one. And you know, so, and then talking about that, and we dropped off that 13 point whatever billion. That hasn't been talked about.
No,
I said, Tony, how many times I said, he goes, I know, 10 million. Yes.
but the thing is that what they brought over here was a conceptual whatever.
That's right.
There are no hard
That's right.
numbers. Now, it's my information that the road is going out to contractors for bid. And so at some point, we should see some hard numbers on the road.
This is, to me, it's like bargaining with a union. Okay, it's bargaining good faith. There is not, can't be bargaining. We can't talk on tape. Those days are over.
Well, I agree.
They gotta be here.
They're going to have to
Well,
start
I'm not
coming here.
interested in talking more about it. It's I'm cut up to the ears. So,
So Brandon, I've got them coming.
Yeah.
They're, as far as I'm concerned, if nobody from Walker's Bluff shows up, and they just send us the amendments, it's a non-issue for me.
let's just do it.
So until somebody comes here and explains to us exactly what's going on their part. I mean, there's been so many changes.
What are they coming about?
Well, until they send me the amendment, and then I send that out to you guys
Right.
and to the attorneys. And then once we get the approval from the attorneys, then we can schedule a meeting at that time.
And if we can get that date, great. If we can't, we have to get our date. It's that simple.
Yeah.
You got board review coming up, you tell us they're coming up. Budget coming up, so.
It'll be a Wednesday at 1:15.
Well, and
Yeah. Problem.
and speaking of board review, I'm still scheduled for the 7th to take that test.
They can't come.
You guys always make me feel better. You guys do a good job making me feel better. I just want you to know. But gentlemen, they're gonna have to come here and talk to us.
You know, this game, we can't talk because this, that is over. It's just been sent in. Get out here and talk to us, or I'm sorry, I'm just not interested. They're not gonna tell us what to do. That's the appearance that I'm hearing is going to happen. What you just said, we try to make change. No, can't do that, but we can make change and then, and bargain in good faith. And I've not seen that. So, whatever.
Okay. So,
Today, it may be a temporary and Timbuktu, who knows what time of day.
yeah, the day is still early. I mean, I can get a phone call anytime. So do I need you have any more questions for me?
Now, Kim, do you have anything you want to add to that?
Oh, I forgot she was here. Sorry, Kim.
Oh, no, that's okay. No, I don't. I think you're just having to wait for the language to come to you, and then you can see how the timing works. I do have this comment now that I said I don't, I do. With a September 9th gaming board meeting, they will have to have whatever document several days in advance of that meeting. So your timeline only gets shorter. So, if, you know, you probably, if you're gonna be able to do anything, do it at least a week in advance of that September 9th date, which will back you up to around the September 1st date.
Yeah.
That would be your timeline, not all the way up to September 9th.
I would be very shocked if they get everybody together and have this submitted by September 9th. But we'll see.
Yeah, right. Well, we're not gonna be,
That's not our issue.
no, but we'll make ourselves available to.
Not our issue.
Thank you, Kim.
Any words of wisdom there, Mr. Legal Beagle, of anything else you want to add today?
I don't think so. I said my piece regarding the casino.
Where are we at
I
with
think you
the,
guys know how the six turns out feels about that.
where are we at with the hiring policy? I talked to Brandon about, you know.
I have had a general discussion with Brandon in our weekly meeting. He didn't tell me if you have asked him to draft something. I haven't been asked to draft something, if that's what you're looking for.
Yeah.
Okay. Then
Grab something.
it has not been started because I didn't know that I'd been asked to do that.
Would you draft something and run it by Brandon? If Brandon has the knowledge of what I've given him, you know, my request, we could run it by the board, discuss it. And basically, like I said, it's not to prevent anyone from not hiring whoever they want. It's just, let's make sure, was the job posted, are you giving minorities consideration and so on. And that way, you can still hire whoever you want. Anybody question us, say we got our policy in place,
Yeah.
go talk to the department head.
I didn't know about drafting it. The one thing we had talked about though was having a policy in place. And then also maybe creating just a one-page checklist that then could be distributed to the department heads.
Right.
And that way we have our policy in place as a county, we have the checklist, and then if there's a problem, you can look back and say, hey, look, you were aware of this policy. Did you fill out a checklist on this, you know, specific employee? And it just
And so on.
makes it a little easier and clearer. But I will touch base with Brandon. I'm supposed to have a phone conference with him this afternoon. And I will try to get some direction on him and we'll get going on that. What are we at? We're at about the 20th of August. I would imagine there's no reason that shouldn't be ready by your regular meeting in September.
Be good. All right. You guys got anything else?
No, I'm done.
Good. Great. Nothing? I just need a motion now. Sure.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Good.
Bridge entry?
Yeah.
Yep.
Thanks, Kim. Sure. So,
I apologize, my 9 a.m. went long, I'm sorry.
no problem. All right. We'll see you.